What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and the other great host of this show, Nick. And Jourdan has returned. Jourdan has returned to talk to us about all things OTAs, Rams offseason drama, and everything in between. But before we get into this episode, first and most importantly, Jourdan, how are you?
I'm well, guys. Actually, I need to talk about this. I just saw something somewhat controversial that I don't find controversial, but I really want to talk about this. Lemon LaCroix, best flavor. Best flavor. Yeah, I know easily. That's a hot take for some people. Easily the most triumphant flavor of all the sparkling flavors.
Best flavor. It's Rams colored, you know.
Oh, nicely done. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I even have my little David Shrigley like lemon behind me too. So, you know, big lemon LaCroix fan over here.
Damn, I'm slacking. What the hell am I doing over here?
I know. What are you drinking? Water? Like regular water?
I just finished the Propel, which is not as exciting as LaCroix, but, you know, what are we doing? At least we're staying hydrated. So this offseason, as it tends to be for Rams fans, is highly dramatic. And that's why, Jourdan, we're doing our yearly review of, you know, we've had you on last year. We like to bring you on every single year around this time. We got a little thing going here. So I know there's been some drama coming out of the draft, and the draft is now about a month out. But, you know, it seems like the Rams have tried to trade up in consecutive drafts. Last year it was Brock Bowers, and this year it was the Panthers with Ted McMillan potentially, or maybe even Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren. Nobody knows. Is there any real clarity that you can provide on this situation? Because we know you used to cover the Panthers, and maybe there's some connections that you have where you could tap into.
Well, first of all, I like seeing the Panthers on the rise. That's like personally fun for me. And also, you know, we at The Athletic reported the day of the draft that it was Ted that they were trying to move up for. I know that all of this type of thing kind of comes back around this time of year because these really awesome team produced videos come out. But what I want to remind people too, and there those guys are, that was so cool to do that at the draft site. That was an incredibly moving experience. You really have so much perspective on like the bigger picture, what's bigger than sports, and the hosts, all the people at the fire station, the air operations site, which was active as they were drafting. So thank God nothing crazy happened, but they were such gracious hosts. Incredible to see how those guys and women go about their daily lives. But yeah, I do want to remind everybody that you're probably going to see something like this every single year with the Sean and Les dynamic. It is the Sean McVay like art project of the first round where there's some sort of like pie in the sky, aggressive attempt to trade up for like one of his favorite players, like no matter where they are in the draft, and basically making the call and seeing like what it would take, whether it's doable, whether it's possible. But there also is a very real understanding that probably is not going to happen. And so then they have, you know, all of these other plans, including other plan A's for either staying put or doing what the majority of the staff preferred at that time, which was trading out of that pick. Now, they could not have predicted that Atlanta would come in with another first round pick. I mean, they were stunned. I think a lot of people were, but in the draft room, they were absolutely stunned by that. And of course you say yes to that and then hope that you still get your favorite tight end in the class. In the case of Sean McVay, that was Terrence Ferguson. He reminds him, he had some lofty comps to him, which I know nobody expects him to fill those comps where he's comparing him to Travis Kelce and Chris Conley, like back when, you know, he coached him in Washington, and when he was scouting Travis Kelce coming out of the draft into the draft back when he was in Washington. Sean McVay was an assistant back then. Like lofty comps, but he wasn't one-to-one comparing them. It was more so like the traits and the qualities, the way that they move on the field, the way that they operate space. Like he was enamored with this guy. And there was also a connection with Logan Paulson, who was training Terrence Ferguson in the offseason, one of Sean McVay's favorite players and people he's ever coached in his entire career. Super smart guy too, who's helping him with some of the blocking and all of that. So there was a lot of reasons why Terrence Ferguson was Sean McVay's favorite tight end in the draft class, and somebody who is not necessarily going to need to do everything right away, but can grow into this vision of a role that they have for him, inclusive to playing a little bit of that F spot that we saw usually occupied by Cooper Kupp back in the glory days, right? Like all of the hybrid blocking and receiving things that he can do, which really opens Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams up And I think takes the pressure off of Tyler Higbee a little bit as well in his last year on his contract.
For sure. And they're just so unorthodox. Like, they're unpredictable in what they could potentially do. But we know that, Sean McVay, going back to the Washington days, he's a tight end coach, right?
Yeah.
So he has an obsession with guys like Chris Cooley or Travis Kelce. Like,
Cooley, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he wants to know. Oh, yeah. But regardless, he wants to know, who could be the successor to a guy like Tyler Higbee, who can, change the dynamic of the offense and allow them to play in different personnel groupings. And I think that's what's so interesting about the process is, like, we could have went up, we could have got a receiver like a Ted McMillan. We could have got a Brock Bowers last year who, he almost took a game away from the Rams if it weren't for Quentin Lake this past season. So I'm so curious to tap into their minds and see what the process looks like, because they're fascinating with the way that they go about business. And I feel like that leads into a couple of other offseason questions. Nick, I know you and I were talking about Jalen Ramsey, right? Yeah. And the potential to bring him in. So I would love to know what you were thinking there as well.
Yeah, I mean, leave it to me. I'm going to bring up Jalen Ramsey, of course.
I love it.
The Ramsey situation, we're 5 days past the June 1st, the Ramsey tweet where he was like 5 days and nothing has materialized yet. Sean has talked about it at pressers and kind of, given like somewhat vague answers. Do you think there's reality behind the Rams bringing him back? And then do you view him like, as the missing piece? Do you think they view him as the missing piece?
I think it's similar where he's like an A+ addition at a variety of different positions for them. Whereas where they don't necessarily have need, and I know, I am among the people who do have some concerns about the depth of their secondary. But also, like, he's an A+ add at safety, at star, at outside corner. And I do think that that's why this is in such high consideration. Even, going into age 30, even going into the back half of his career, the back third of his career, Jalen Ramsey just plays so hard. And even when Miami was struggling, like, you could see he was giving it everything he had. And obviously there was some discontent there from a few different players with how their season turned out. And there's a lot of love still here for Jalen Ramsey among the coaching staff, who's very familiar with him. Chris Shula coached Jalen Ramsey for a while back when Chris Shula was coaching defensive backs. Obviously, Aubrey Pleasant is a big reason that they have such a connectivity still. And I think that it's interesting because I never looked at the June 1st date as like a timeline or a deadline and Sean kind of laughed at this at his press conference the other week, because he's like, because Gary Klein, wonderful colleague, covers the Rams for the LA Times. Of course, he asked the question like, hey, June 1st coming up and all that stuff. It's a news question to ask. And Sean likes to go back and forth with Gary a lot. And so he goes, that's not a real date, Gary. And so, but he's right. Like, it isn't. You can designate a June 1st trade or a transaction even after before the transaction occurred, like all of those things. And so I feel like this is more of a training camp deadline, because what the Rams are going to want to do and have to do, and any team really who is interested in acquiring Jalen Ramsey, is wait out the Dolphins, really see how low they're willing to go and how willing they are to acquiesce such a trade, because teams are not going to pay that salary and they're probably not going to send a huge amount of draft capital for him, even as quality of a player as I believe he still is. Teams are just looking at what makes fiscal sense and also at where their own rosters still lack pieces and might need some juice added. So I think that that's more of the deadline that I'm looking at. I think this is still a very real possibility for the Rams, but I don't think they're in a hurry at all. And knowing Jalen, who was sort of nicknamed like the quiet GM of the team when he was here, knowing Jalen, he knows that. He understands how they operate. I would be surprised if he's in a rush on this too.
That last part, that's the clip, right? That's the one that's going to get clipped and shared out, just because that was such an interesting comment. No, and you know what? You said something really interesting about the June 1st date. So I know that, when Cooper Kupp was released, it was originally reported that they were going to potentially designate him for a post-June 1 release because it would open up some more cap flexibility. It doesn't seem like that's any longer the case. That's not what's happening.
No, I think that was just a miscommunication in the information that wherever that was reported. I think that was just a miscommunication because I'm of the understanding that it was never on the table was never on the table. Obviously, teams look at the salary balance on everything. But that was not something that they planned to do. Obviously, that was one of the most significant moments of the offseason so far. So I think the logistics of it might have gotten miscommunicated or like lost in the shuffle. But no, that was not a post June 1st designation.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I was thinking to myself, if we're going to get the news, we're probably going to get the official transaction notification on the 1st of June. So I set a reminder, and I thought to myself,
of course you did. Of course you set a reminder.
It's an opportunity to post, go on the Over the Cap, and there's some content we could post. And plus it's Coop, right? Like that's our heart as fans, as just admirers of him as a person, as a dad, as a Super Bowl MVP, right? It's like you got to kind of follow the guy's career as it progresses through Seattle. And also selfishly, if it opens up the cap and there's more opportunity to bring in some bodies, like let's do it. So was just curious of your thoughts there.
Yeah, Rams Brothers are an unofficial partner of Dodo Coffee, so we're always.
Oh, I love that. They had it at the facility, and it was tasty. They had it like the last year, I believe. They had it in one of their sections of their cafeteria. I got to try it. It was good stuff. Unofficial. I'm not supposed to endorse things, but unofficially, I'm saying that unofficially. So.
Yeah, I mean they're great. We love Kupp, but speaking of players we love, maybe some Rams fans feel differently about this next guy I'm going to bring up, but it deals with Les Snead. He said towards the end of March, the Rams want to engineer a long-term partnership with Kyren Williams. He's entering the last year of his rookie contract. Reports, before and during the draft were that the Rams and agent Drew weren't necessarily close on the number. And then a couple weeks ago, Kyren comes out and he said he knows it's going to happen with time. Do you expect that to happen soon? And then if not, do you see guys like Corum or Hunter kind of stepping into that role?
Yeah, usually training camp again is when the Rams, if they're going to do an early extension, that's usually when it happens. That's when they can really understand the aptitude with which guys have arrived. They get a lot of their initial sports science data with Reggie Scott and Trent Frey on kind of just like what the player might be capable of, the kind of workload that they're able to take on. Kyren, I have no doubt, is going to surpass all of those quotas and metrics and all of those things. I talked to him the other week just about how he's managing the situation, understanding that this is out there. The team is continuing to have these conversations with Drew Rosenhaus, and they met at the league meeting, but the conversation didn't close just because they're apart on the number. That didn't lead to a close in conversation. In the past, sometimes it has with agents and with the Rams if that initial conversation is far apart. And in this case, it hasn't. So Kyren was talking about how it's like a good faith and a nod of respect, and like everybody seems to kind of want the same thing. It's just settling on that number. And I think the way that Kyren's handled it, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on a team captain track this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he is somebody who is going to really wear this as a badge of honor, whether or not it happens, like how he handles the situation, because he's really looking at himself and ways that not only he can get better. And I was surprised. I didn't ask him outright about the fumbles. He brought it up, and he basically was like, I have to take personal accountability on this. Like, you can't do that. I have to fix that. Like, it's not good. And I was sort of like the venom with which he said it about like how he needs to fix it. And it's a problem. And the accountability was beyond his years, first of all. And then second of all, certainly for somebody like, bro, you're going into a contract negotiation. Don't bring up the bad stuff. But that's just who he is. He's going to hold himself accountable regardless of whatever is happening around him. And I do want to emphasize and stress as well that this is a team that's coming back with its core that when they were all on the field together, they led the league in EPA and EPA per play on offense. And this is the core of Rob Havenstein, of Kyren Williams, of Puka Nacua, of Matthew Stafford. Like when all of those guys were on the field together at the same time, their offense was nearly unstoppable and certainly had so much dimension. And so I think that, you cannot discount, despite the mistakes, like you cannot leave a person where they are in that space. You have to look at the entire picture with them, which the Rams are certainly doing. I also think that this is a team you're not going to see these market setting contracts happen for certain positions, certainly running back being one of them, tight end, unless tight ends like suddenly are back, which I think they will be, but that's another conversation for another time. And, you know, like they've recently restarted like doing big deals for guards, as guards have really become much more important as the run game has returned. You know, those types of things, you're just not going to see them be like needle movers on a lot of the money stuff. You will see them be needle movers on process stuff. So the way that they're handling the Stafford year-to-year stuff, the way that they draft, their strategy, all of those things. But I don't think you're seeing this franchise being like market setting in certain areas, because I think they're a little shy about that based on their previous experiences.
Yeah, and I don't blame them, right? And it's like you look at the Eagles too, and you're looking at guys like Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley, who they essentially rewarded contracts to because they won them the Super Bowl. And you look at the guard play, right? The change in scheme is potentially impacting the increase in dollars allocated towards those areas. But I think it was the Thursday night game against the Vikings, which was the turning point to me on Kyren's impact into the locker room, when he just went nuts. And then Snead came out over the offseason like, this guy is a Ram. Like he is who we identify with. He's the kind of person we want in the building. He's an old time St. Louis fan, loves Steven Jackson. So I'm just so curious as to what's going to happen with him, just because it's been 8 consecutive years of drafting, not a potential replacement, but at the position. Nick and I compare it to like the lottery, to where they play the lottery at the receiver position. They hit more often than not. But at the running back position, they continue to play the lottery and are just a donation. So yeah, I'm curious as to how that's going to work.
They won with Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel in the backfield. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like it was by committee for so long. It's interesting to see them now. Like, you know, I mean, but then again, at the same time, they're still drafting. So it's like it's hard from a fan perspective to figure out exactly what they want to do.
It was a different scheme too. Like back in that 21 season, I would call that one of the most one-dimensional teams that I've seen recently with them. Even though the record, they obviously won a Super Bowl, the record sort of hides that a little bit. On offense, it was relying on, especially at the end there, on Matthew Stafford's arm, which is a great thing to rely on. Don't get me wrong. And also Cooper Kupp having one of the best seasons in NFL history by a receiver. Yeah. So I do think that like we'll get to this, I'm sure, but like the resilience and the substance of this team, which Sean McVay really took a look at after that 22 season, is reflected in the depth and multiplicity of their run game, of which Kyren Williams is a perfect fit for, right? And so that's where when they are looking at, when Les Snead says something like he's a Ram, it doesn't just mean like contract related. They actually have a process in their draft and talent identification where they basically nickname the character combination scheme assessments with, it's a make him a Ram survey, right? Yeah. It's like who in this, who in this evaluation is a Ram? Well, some of that's modeled after Kyren. Some of those it's like they have data on this, just like it was after Cooper, just like it will be after Rob, just like all of these things, like the he is a Ram. The qualities that they're defining come from qualities that they have proof of concept for. And Kyren Williams is one of those people. So that's why I think like you're just seeing such a difference. There's he's sort of like a heart on his sleeve player, the same way that Sean McVay is as a play caller. The energy between them and Matthew Stafford on the field, it's like a tangible thing. You can feel it. You can almost see it in the air. And certainly I think lifts everybody. And that's not something to ignore throughout the course of this process, as well as when they were shuffling through a rotation, the strain that it put on the team to basically strip down parts of their scheme week to week, depending on who was available. Darrell Henderson, I really enjoyed covering him. He was awesome, but he had to even be on a pitch count at practice at times and you have to change the way you practice because there was such an injury history with him. So there was just these different types of things, you have to factor in a bunch of different elements when you're talking about contract extensions, and certainly not, like I would say, market setting ones.
Yeah. And you know what, with Kyren too, it makes it a little bit easier for him to root, like for us to root for him and for Rams fans to root for him when you know the full context. When you remove the human element from it and you just look at the bare bones, the numbers, the fumbles, it's easy to kind of turn the page. But then you look at all of the incredible traits that he brings into the building and reasons why he drafted them, and it helps them kind of formulate a template on how they can continue to identify Rams, it makes sense as to why they're talking about a contract negotiation. So thank you for providing clarity there. That was super helpful because we've been going back and forth on this. So I think more of an insane topic, a more fun topic over the past couple of days has been Jared Verse.
Oh my gosh.
Him being himself and just being a total maniac. He was on the Adam Schefter podcast and said the following about Aaron Donald's workout routine. And I quote, and he quotes, "Whenever he is ready for a workout, he can get at me." And then Donald responded dripping sweat on his treadmill at home and just said, "Come to the house. I just want to talk." And then Verse was in a sauna and was like, "I'll do your old man workout if you do my young man workout." I was like, this is just two maniacs going back and forth with each other. Who could one up each other? I wanted to get your opinion, though, on who you feel like is going to win the Aaron Donald versus Jared Verse liftoff.
I mean, it's going to be Aaron. That's the thing is I'm like, oh, Jared, like you do not want that smoke, man.
Yeah, what
like
are you doing?
Don't like, that's the thing. That's these kids today. No, I'm just kidding. That's one of the things though, is like Jared, like Aaron, he never saw like Aaron Donald weight room maniac, right? Like multiple things are true. You guys know, I love that saying. Like, it is true that Jared Verse is an absolutely elite athlete and also elite at trash talking to the point where he does not mind saying things like this because he knows that he can back it up and he has so much fun with it. The Philadelphia stuff from last season, like what a lot of people don't know is like, again, shout out to my colleague Gary, who does the job, like it's absolutely to the T of how it should be done. Like, he's like, we're on the record reminding him like, and Verse is like, put that in the newspaper, like he wants to back it up. Right. Like he wants to have that. And he loves it. You saw it in the schedule release video. Like he was ready to play the heel a little bit. And I think that is so great because he is a really, really good person. He's an awesome teammate. And so when you are all of those things at once, like you're allowed to have fun with a lot of this. But with Aaron, I'm sitting there and I'm like, no, Aaron Donald made a Make-A-Wish kid throw up and felt no pity, felt nothing like, and this is not the person you want to work out with. Like,
no.
Start with like Ethan Evans and move up from there. Like,
there you go. Ethan Evans is just like quietly squatting 700 pounds.
See if you can hang with the punter first, right? And then you do not go from 0 to Aaron Donald. Like, just don't do it. It's a life lesson. Do not do it. That's just my advice.
Yeah, I mean, challenge your teammates first. Like, let's see Verse versus Puna Ford, or let's see Verse versus BY or Kobe Turner. But I mean, I'm sure just based on how vocal he is, like, one, it's a good little publicity stunt. Like, it's a good way to keep his name relevant throughout the whole offseason. Is like, let's challenge 34-year-old Aaron Donald. But yeah, just like seeing Donald be as consistent as he is in the offseason and just knowing the nature of the beast that is Aaron Donald, like, why are you playing that game?
It's just so funny. I think I saw a comment about this that I agreed with. It's like, man, we were robbed of seeing them on the field together. And like, it's like, oh man, how much fun would that have been just to see those two together working off of each other, and Braden Fisk, like sort of egging everybody on in the background, and Kobe Turner, like the proud dad, even though Aaron Donald is like 10 years older than him. Like, it's such a cool group, and one that I know Aaron would have had so much fun with. And I like that they're keeping the connectivity. Like, here's what would not surprise me at all. If this was just a long-term play by Jared Verse to trash talk Aaron enough to, hey, why don't you come to the facility one day, Aaron? See if you still got your cleats in your locker, Aaron. Oh, you have a uniform in it? Oh, you're active tonight? Okay. Like that is Jared Verse's mind works on a bunch of different levels, man. And I would not be surprised if this was a long game for him.
If that happens next to the Aaron Donald statue at SoFi Stadium, we'll have to go a Jared Verse statue as well. Just them two right next to each other lifting. I mean, if you bring Aaron Donald back just by like poking the bear, I mean, all credit goes to Verse for doing it.
Yeah, and be careful, man, because like I said, going from 0 to Aaron Donald in the weight room, like that's a good way to get a hernia or something. So
yes, you're right. You're totally right. Go ahead, Nick. I know there's some new faces in the building that you were going to ask about.
Yeah, I'm just to go off of Aaron Donald did that with the old and with the new, and maybe it comes back at some point. That'd be crazy. But I mean, you have Devontae Adams, you have Poona Ford, Nate Landman, and some Coleman Shelton, not so new faces. What's the sentiment internally and around the league on how the Rams are going to approach free agency?
Yeah, it's interesting. They went about it like a very self-aware team. Like they knew that they had some glaring issues that were fixable. So, adding Poona Ford, who was one of the best run defenders and penetrating run stoppers in the NFL, especially within the technique that the Rams themselves would be playing. Like Poona Ford excelled in Jesse Minter's gap and a half, like light boxes defense. The Chargers, I think, played with light boxes at like 75% rate last season. And that's what the Rams want to do and be able to do as they continue to develop Krishula's defense, which will take on, I think, a lot of this like hybrid of this Fangio system while also working in the world of what Michigan had done with what Mike McDonald had done with what Jesse Minter is doing, what Baltimore had done. Like, I think you're going to see like a melding together of both of those philosophies. And I think that's where Krishula is going to start to put his fingerprints on like who he is as a defensive coordinator, and getting a guy like Poona who can do all of those things on the early downs and then like tee up the rest of the group to rush the passer on the late downs. I think that had the mark of a very self-aware team who lost games specifically because of their run defense and also because they could not contain the quarterback in the perimeter when the quarterback went on the move and in the pass. And you just need to fundamentally put all of these things together in a way that they're really thinking about. And then, the Coleman Shelton thing, I mean, it sucks because it's, Bo Limmer, he got made by, two veteran moves back to back, on the interior where you have like sort of a faint step or like a fake step that you're moving your head almost like a receiver would release off the line. You're doing that at D tackle and getting him. And that's where that's hard. But you need to have somebody who knows what the savvy move is going to be before it even happens. And in fact, a few plays earlier, Coleman Shelton has seen a lot of football. Him and Matthew Stafford really communicate well together. My personal theory here is that Matthew Stafford was just really somehow got used to playing with a lefty center and like just needed to get a lefty center back. And like, as a left-handed person, I want to believe, right? But Coleman and Matthew like work really well together. And so that's where I think that was, and again, it's like these little small things, investing, I wouldn't say investing with a capital I, but investing some in their inside linebacker position. And this is a team where, with Devontae Adams, like he can do a lot of different things. He can work the perimeter, but he can also move inside. And so you're basically treating this offense like in this passing game as a solar system in a way where there's a lot of interchangeable orbiting pieces around the stack. And you have a lot of players who can do a lot of things and line up in a lot of different ways. And then where they start is not going to be where they finish because they're going to use a lot of motions and a lot of the same misdirection that they've done and hybrid roles as well. And I think that's where just watching Devontae at practice, like he still very much has it. And so I just think that this was a team where it was like, okay, we have a few simple things that seem like obvious. And so, hey, why don't we not overcomplicate it and just do the obvious fix and make these little adjustments that I think lift the floor and the ceiling of this team. And I said on Kevin Clark's show the other day, like, I think the floor of this team is like the highest in the NFL right now. It just, to me, it is like the way that they can be. I think that this is a top quality team that very much knows it's a contender, and that's how they went about their offseason and the draft. Yeah,
it's so interesting what you could do with Devontae. I didn't realize his slot percentage was as high as it was.
Yeah, he looks great coming out of the slot too. I mean, it's because he gets open so fast. He can get open so fast, and he has such a massive catch radius that you almost it doesn't make sense in your brain watching him come off the line out of the slot, and then suddenly he's over on the perimeter based on the concept he ran, and he's like contorting and twisting up to bring in the ball, which I saw him do at OTAs the other week. It's like, it doesn't make sense the way that all of those things can exist at once, but it very much does. And that's why Sean McVay was so drawn to him.
Sean should have included that little blurb right there in the pitch to Devontae in the offseason.
If only I got to it earlier.
That's pretty damn good. Yeah, he's such an interesting player too, and like, you love the versatility, obviously, but the get off and the little details, the technical aspects, what he's able to teach Puka, right, in OTAs and little details. Kupp's get off was incredible too, but he's not as athletic and he's not as quick, right? So like just those little fractions of details and little technical advancements in a route tree, like those are all things that I think are going to help bring Puka Nacua from a star to a superstar type level player. So I'm just interested. And the one thing you said about Puna Ford I thought was fascinating too. I remember this interview with Jason Kelsey where he was like, sometimes these backup nose guards are the ones, they have longer arms and they have whatever he said, but they're able to get leverage, and to be able to have that type of player to be able to play a gap and a half. I was wondering if there's any overlap with Giff Smith, because wasn't Giff Smith in LA with Puna Ford, or was there no overlap?
No,
there?
I don't think there was an overlap there, because he was in Seattle and Giff was in LA when Puna was in the other LA.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that. And I know, like with OTAs going on, I watched our video again from last year, and you were so spot on about Jordan Whittington. You were like, fantasy managers, beware, but this kid, Jordan Whittington, is the real deal. Yeah. So I just wanted to know if there was anybody else that you're looking at that could fit within that same category.
I'm glad you asked, because I like stirring up the fantasy football masses this time of year, and my mentions get psychotic, but that's fine. Konate Mumfield, guys, this dude is a dude. Like, he like, listen, caveat, just like last year, it will be very hard for him to actually see significant or, substantial reps in his rookie season. It will be very difficult because you have Puka Nacua, you have Tutu Atwell, who's looked great. And by the way, always looks great at every practice. And finally, maybe we'll be getting used more, which Sean McVay like openly admitted he kind of effed up on, and not using him as much as he should have over the last couple of years. Like, Tutu Atwell's look great. Devontae obviously is a superstar. Puka is obviously a superstar. Jordan Whittington can play any position for you, including a fullback, which I hope to see more of, and can even get a couple carries because he was an all-star running back at Texas where he was growing up before he got to the University of Texas. And so like this guy can do everything. So it would be very, very hard to get on the field if you're a rookie, especially a late round pick. But if you go back and watch his tape at Pitt, he is so tailor-made for the Sean McVay offense. Like, he is absolutely tailor-made for it. Understands space manipulation, understands how to get open, understands how to play under a zone, understands how to look for his landmarks and to kind of manipulate space around them to throw the defender off of the same mark. Like, really gets it. And I think that even watching him at OTAs the other week when Puka was on that really cool trip with his mom, like, other receivers had to step up. Jordan Whittington absolutely wowed at practice when he was filling that sort of, at least a part of the rep share of what Puka would have been doing at that practice. But Konate Mumfield also stepped in and was getting, like, okay, let me say it. I'm going to say it. Okay. Significant mental workload. Like, he was doing the thing, and it was really cool to watch. And yes, it is OTAs, and no, nothing matters or counts right now. But the fact that he looked so confident and really took what is all over his tape at Pitt and translated it directly into the very rudimentary version of the offense that they're running right now in OTAs. I'm excited about his long-term future. I'm not saying he's going to play right away, but I'm excited about his long-term future.
That's huge. I just to kind of wrap things up here, just over the next 3 months, we're going to be starving for content and things to put out as football fans. And we lost.
There he goes. Yes, I'm the new Rams bro.
It's just me and Jordan now. What else should Rams fans be watching out for over the next 3 months?
Yeah, well, obviously you're just going to keep an eye on this Jalen Ramsey situation, because I do think there's still a chance that this happens. Again, I think there's a lot of factors in it, and it's a waiting game. It's interesting because I don't think they're very concerned about the depth of their secondary, but they do know that he would be a value add. And I think part of it's because Emmanuel Forbes has been really building confidence over the last several months while in this program after kind of a disastrous time in Washington. And I feel like they're excited about that. I know Aubrey Pleasant really believes in him. So this is something where you just want to keep an eye on it. And obviously they love their safeties as well, their young safeties. But I think that that's still, they know that getting him would be a benefit, right? So getting Jalen would be a benefit. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Definitely the contract situation with Kyren, keep an eye on that. I liked what Les said when I was talking to him at the league meeting earlier this year, where he's like, no early contract does not necessarily mean no contract. It just means that we just can't figure it out right now. And he'll play through his final season. I do know too that getting this offensive line keeping the continuity that they have is huge. I am concerned about Rob Havenstein, not because I don't think that he could push through whatever, but also, even though it wasn't a repair, both of his shoulders had like a clean out earlier this offseason. And you have to remember that this guy is pushing, he is pass setting, he is handling and basically absorbing the force of pass rushers directly into his torso and his arms. So you just got one eye on that just to make sure that he's all good to go, because I am not super confident as of now in their depth along their offensive line. They have a lot of really good guard body types along their offensive line right now. But tackles, not super sure. I think that's why you saw them bring in David Quessenberry as a free agent signing. We'll see if that works out as a depth player. But those are the main situations that I'm looking at. And also an update in the Verse Donald situation. I would love to see, I am sat for that. So
yeah,
I'd love to see
good content of them working out together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just show us that.
But and the last thing I would say too, it's very important that it is rare that the team executive leaders, Kevin Demoff, Tony Pastors, Les Snead, it is super rare that they talk so openly about the potential of incoming contract extensions for their leadership group, specifically in Sean and Les. They were talking very openly about how normally they start that process a year early on those deals. This is a year early on those deals. This is the summer. Normally the timeline, you see that again going into training camp. You've seen that in the past with those two being aligned for extensions. That is something I personally have my eye on because as I've written about extensively, Sean McVay's recommitment to football has been significant, and recommitment to coaching and his personal growth and his self-betterment has been very significant, and him and Les are a great team. And so it was interesting in March at those meetings to hear Tony Pastors and Kevin Demoff talking about how, typically this is the time, saying stuff without really saying it. This is the time of year when we usually work on those things. And for me, my radar goes up just as a reporter whenever I hear something like that.
I mean, yeah, that's also super interesting. I mean, I can speak for most Rams fans when I say we want them to be working in tandem together for a really long time, because, it's what we had before. We don't want to go back to that. It was not great in those eras, and we loved the Los Angeles Rams era. But Jourdan, I just want to say, I speak for all Rams fans when I say thank you. You do so much amazing, great work. To have you on this show and talk to us, just fans, it means so much. And you're always putting out such amazing content. And I just want to thank you for coming on and for just doing such a great job and covering our favorite team.
Thank you. It is my honor and my joy of my life to have been able to be able to do this. The fans are so great, and I constantly bring this is a fan base that loves a good bit, loves a good long running inside joke. There are things that we talk about that we bring up that I know I can literally see people being like, oh yeah, that's a thing, or oh, I recognize that comment. I love it, and it's a family, right? And it's a cool one, and I'm honored to be a part of it, and I'm glad to be on anytime. This is our tradition. We got to do it every year, so this is definitely our tradition. Well, now I've replaced one of the Rams bros, so
yeah, now it's a true Ramily. It's not just two bros. You got anything that you're working on that you want to plug right now? Anything that that you want to talk about?
I am working on, well, go read my latest feature on Chris Peterson and Sean McVay, please. That's a multi-year reporting work that came out this week. I would be honored if you guys would read it, and I am honored to have been able to write it. And other than that, I'm working on getting some rest.
Nice. Go over and play those too if you want to play Mario Kart. I just got it.
Right, as long as there's lemon LaCroix.
Yes, there will be lemon LaCroix.
You haven't replaced me yet, Jordan. I'm back.
I know you did. You did the Undertaker, like you rose up out of it.
Wait, hold on.
You're gonna have to put that meme in post.
Jourdan, I have to ask. Can you give us any insight on these Rams rival jerseys? Could they potentially be yellow? Do you know anything about that going on?
Oh, that's a Rich Hammond question. You guys know I don't do anything uniforms. I can't say anything. Yeah,
I'm like the only one who cares. I just want yellow Rams jerseys so bad.
It is funny, like that came out like during the draft. I'm like, guys, we're releasing this during that? Not the like all 32 teams. It's just like, guys, nobody's paying attention to this right now. Like everybody wants to know who their team is going to pick. Okay, so it's like a bold, brave audience of one. Congratulations. Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to ask Rich and see what he has to say. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he's
doing good. He says hello. I told him that I was coming on today. We keep track of each other. Obviously, he's over on the hockey vertical now at the Athletic still, and he's editing. And he says hello. And he also, in like that gorgeous velvet voice that he has, says he has no updates on uniforms yet. So.
Well, tell him we said hi and we miss him dearly. Yeah. Good. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us. I'll keep this brief just because my camera is probably going to die again and I'm going to have to do another Undertaker revival. But thank you, Nick. I want to echo Nick's sentiments because you're incredible. You're the best reporter this team has ever had. So we appreciate everything that you do. Hope you can get some rest. Congratulations on all the hard work that you've just put out. But go recharge those batteries because we're going to need you full force for this season.
Thank you, guys. Hey, they're going to go on another run this year, I think. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. So thank you, guys. It is my pleasure, truly, to be on with you. Thank you for all the work that you do. Content creators are so important in this space and to this team in particular. And you guys do an outstanding job. And so I'm so glad to see how big your platform has gotten. I'm so glad to see you guys get the well-deserved kudos that you have earned. So keep going. I will keep supporting. And obviously we have to do this again soon. So thank you guys for having me.
Yes, we're doing in-season Jordan this year. Hold us to it. We're doing it.
I will look like the SpongeBob meme of the guy sitting in the wheelchair who's just a skeleton. I'll just be like, this is me. This is me in November.
I love it. If it means a run, who cares what we look like? Let's just go for it. All right. Thanks so much, Jordan. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care. Be well.